We have Ian Castleberry playing with us, and it's always a treat to have Ian talking Major League Baseball headlines, presented today by our good friends at Mountain Credit Union. Ian Castleberry, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm sure you're keeping busy as always. And boy, we've got a lot going on to talk about with you as well. Ian, let's first start with Marcell Ozuna's recent DUI, sparking boos from some Braves fans the day after he was arrested around 4 a.m. last Friday. Now, Ozuna used his affiliation with the Braves before being arrested, like, hey, do you know who I am? I'm an Atlanta Brave. Oh, dude, that is not the right thing to do. Nonetheless, Braves brass not happy with him. Ozuna was suspended last year after assaulting his wife, but they're tied to his $65 million contract. He is year two. Since then he's struggled since he signed that 2 years ago. He's in year two right now. But Ian, I think the bigger question is, how do you think this plays out? Is Ozuna going to get another shot, obviously because of his contract, or you think the Braves are going to maybe look around and maybe ship him out?
If they ship him out, I don't think it'll be until the end of the season. Ozuna probably is fortunate in that the Braves kind of need him on the roster right now, even though he's lost his starting job in left field to Robbie Grossman, and Eddie Rosario is fighting a hamstring injury. Between the injury to Rosario, Adam Duvall out for the rest of the season, they need Ozuna either to play left field or his bat in the lineup. And as you pointed out, he's in the second year of a 4-year, $65 million contract. So if they let him go, they're going to eat, $37 million. It could be $41 million if they let him go this season. But for that money, I think they're probably going to hang on to him for the rest of the season, maybe, with a wince through gritted teeth, like, we don't want to, but we kind of need him. But after the season, maybe that's a different story. Can they trade him? Maybe. He hit 20 home runs this year, but he's batting only .213. His OPS is .653. He's basically a bat at this point. He's not very good defensively, which is another reason why he was benched. Advanced metrics have him as one of the worst left fielders in Major League Baseball, a -6 in defensive runs saved.
Oh, fabulous.
So that means he's allowing more runs than other players at that position throughout Major League Baseball. So the Braves are really in a tough spot here, but unless legally there's a reason for the Braves with what's decided on his DUI, if either Major League Baseball or the Braves decide to suspend him because of that, I think the Braves are pretty much stuck with him at least through the end of this season.
Yeah, what did Alice Anthropoulos, did he come out and what was Braves, the brass reaction to all of this?
He said he was disappointed, and Brian Snitker said, well, he's a part of this team right now, which is why he played yesterday. But I think they're waiting to see how this shakes out legally before making a final decision on this.
Man, yeah, these players like Ozuna, these great opportunities they have, and obviously, the assault charge on his wife, which, by the way, police actually saw happen. They witnessed it. That obviously did not sit well with baseball fans, certainly Braves fans as well. And, I'm wondering if they were booing him because of his latest action or just for his stupidity at this point. But there were enough Braves fans to show their dissatisfaction Saturday in Atlanta. All right, as Ian Castleberry plays with the Wise Guys, Barrett Sports Media on the D.C. Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. And our thanks to our friends at Mountain Credit Union for bringing us Ian today. So what has happened to Hader, the Padres closer? We're not talking Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live and that HBO series, Barry, but Hader's just like fallen off the face of the earth since he got traded by Milwaukee last month. I mean, he was one of the top relievers when he was traded. Now he's one of the worst, to the point where the Padres are kind of giving him a break right now from the closer position. His ERA in San Diego's over 16. Ian, what do you make of this? Too many distractions in sunny San Diego?
Maybe getting traded was disruptive for Josh Hader. It's certainly not the pressure of being in a pennant race. He's pitched under those circumstances for quite a few seasons with Milwaukee. I think part of it, this is interesting in that, so on Thursday, he had a terrible outing. He was brought into a situation with 2 runners on, 1 out in the 9th inning, and he hadn't pitched in 9 days. Now, usually with a pitcher, a relief pitcher, even if it's not a safe situation or a situation he would normally be brought in. A lot of managers and a lot of players will bring a pitcher in, after a couple of days just to get him some work so he stays sharp and so forth. So apparently, Hader prefers not to do that. He only wants to come in when it matters. But I think it's entirely possible that he was just really rusty when he came in Thursday, and he also had a bad outing on Friday. So it could be that maybe he's just a bit rusty, his mechanics are off. Another thing to possibly point to is that Hader was struggling in July when he was still with the Brewers, and he found out that he was tipping his pitches, and that was one reason why he wasn't pitching well. I think he had a 13 ERA, 12.54 ERA in July. So it's possible that maybe he's still struggling with that, with whatever he was doing, tipping his pitches. And as you know, as the listeners know watching baseball, it could be the littlest thing, like something we don't even catch watching the game, but it could be, like the way he flares his glove, or the way he comes set to his chest, or maybe he tugs his cap when he's throwing a slider and he doesn't realize it. So maybe all of that's kind of getting in his head between tipping his pitches and trying to iron out his mechanics and just not getting enough work and being rusty. This appears to be a mechanical thing because he's having trouble throwing strikes. He's 5 base on balls, 5 walks in 3 innings. He's only throwing, since going to San Diego, he's only thrown strikes 55% of the time. So this appears to be a mechanical issue, which is why the Brewers are kind of taking the pressure off him, saying, okay, throw in the bullpen, whatever you got to do to get yourself straightened out.
It sounds like they can get this straightened out, Ian. You feel confident in that from what you've described so far?
Yeah, unless it's something, in his head, if he has the yips or something like that. But if it's a mechanical issue, and maybe the Padres, the coaches, their analytics staff can look at something, it could be the smallest thing, where his release point or something like that needs to be fixed. And it does appear that this is something that can be fixed. And fortunately for the Padres, they have about 6 weeks to figure this out, but they are in the midst of a playoff race, so they can't afford Josh Hader to be this bad for very long.
Yeah. What is it with the Padres? It's like last year they did it. It's like they go all in and then nothing really comes from it.
Yeah, it's bad luck with, Juan Soto's been okay since coming over to San Diego. Josh Bell, the other player they got from the Nationals, he's been really bad too. I don't know, is it the time change? Is it going to the West Coast? Is it having the pressure of playing in a pennant race? Again, Hader has been in that situation with the Brewers, and Juan Soto played for a World Series team with the Nationals. Josh Bell hadn't. So maybe that's a situation where the pressure gets to him. But it is curious that these big acquisitions that the Padres get seem to struggle when they go out there.
I know, man. I think they're looking at too many bikinis, quite frankly. And I was just out there. I can confirm that. All right, so we have Ian Castleberry playing with the Wise Guys with Barrett Sports Media on the D.C. Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, presented by Mountain Credit Union. This is interesting, Ian. Why is Phillies pitcher Noah Syndergaard begged off pitching against his former teams this season, the Mets and the Angels?
Well, the question is whether Noah Syndergaard really has asked not to pitch against the Mets, but it appears that way. He had his start pushed back to today, so he avoided pitching against the Mets for the Phillies yesterday. And then Syndergaard was also scheduled to pitch against the Mets in June when he was with the Angels. And again, that start was also pushed back. So is he asking not to pitch against his former team? Does he think maybe that they know him too well, that they have his number, that, Syndergaard is not the same pitcher. He's coming back out from Tommy John surgery. He's not the same pitcher he was, where, he could blow everybody away with a blazing fastball. He's kind of got to get by on location and deception a little more. Seen this with some pitchers over the years who earlier in their career, they could blow every hitter away, but then later in their careers, they have to learn to pitch a little more, and that's an adjustment for him. And Syndergaard has done that successfully. So it is curious. However, Syndergaard has been pitching in a 6-man rotation with the Angels, where he hasn't usually a starter gets 4 days rest, on a conventional schedule, but somewhat also to accommodate Shohei Ohtani, in the Angels rotation. And again, Syndergaard coming back from Tommy John surgery. Syndergaard had been pitching every 5 or 6 days rather than 4. And the Phillies manager, Rob Thompson, insists that's what's happening here, that they wanted to keep him on that 6 days rest schedule. And that's why he was being moved back. But it does look suspicious that he's avoided the Mets at least twice this season.
Yeah, you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, but in public opinion, it's kind of like, that's really odd. By the way, the Phillies, you right now, I mean, this division is certainly the Mets and the Braves are right there as well, Ian. And you look at the standings, and Philadelphia, since that change with Joe Girardi, hasn't really helped a whole lot. You look at their record right now; they're 66-55, not too bad, but they're 12 games behind the Mets, 8 games behind the Braves. How are they looking for a wild card? 66 wins? I got to think that's putting them in the race.
Right now, they do have the 3rd wild card spot behind the Braves and the Padres, but Milwaukee's only 1.5 games behind them, so it's not locked up by any means. It's probably down to the Brewers and the Phillies for that 3rd spot. The Giants are kind of on the outside. They're 6 games back. But right now it looks like it's pretty solidified there in the National League. Unless Atlanta catches the Mets, then the Mets would have that wild card spot. Yeah. But it looks like it's going to be Braves, Padres, Phillies for the 3 National League wild card spots.
God, Ian, looking at this division, and you've got the Marlins at 52 and 69. And then the Nationals, that's not good, but the Nationals are literally 12 games behind the Marlins in last place. I mean, the Nationals, not too long ago, they won a world championship, but it just goes to show, they got rid of all these players. They're looking to rebuild, but dang, Ian, rebuilding off of what may end up being like 55, maybe 60 wins.
Yeah, it's really quite the takedown. It would be depressing to be a Nationals fan. I mean, even the last 2 years alone, losing Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, now Juan Soto. The team is also for sale, which is one reason maybe that they've gotten rid of some of these contracts or haven't re-signed players to big contracts. They want the next owner maybe to make that decision on his own or the ownership group to make it on their own. But yeah, I mean, the Nationals, they're absolutely terrible. I often bring up run differential as a sign of how good or bad a team is. The Nationals, they have a minus 209 run differential. So they have been outscored by 209 runs this season. They're just getting hammered. Even the guys that they still have, like Patrick Corbin, just are not pitching well, are not playing well.
God, I would be drinking heavily. I don't even drink anymore, but you're a Nationals fan, you probably have an excuse there. And before we get to Paul ONeill, I want to send condolences to you and other Tiger fans on the passing of Tigers utility man John Walkenfuss, who passed away at 73. He was with the Tigers, mid to late 70s, right through, right before they won their world championship in 1984. I remember this guy well. Yeah, he played everywhere.
Yeah, he was kind of a utility player. He had a very distinct batting stance.
Yeah.
Fans might remember if they watched him, he had that really closed stance where almost his back was to the pitcher. He had his shoulder almost tucked under his chin. Yeah, he did play for the Tigers. He was traded. He was part of a big trade that might have clinched the 1984 World Series for the Tigers. John Walkenfuss and Glenn Wilson going to Philadelphia for Guillermo Hernandez, then Willie Hernandez, who won the American League Cy Young and Most Valuable Player awards that year. A great trade for the Tigers. But John Walkenfuss was still viewed affectionately by Tigers fans. Yeah, it's a shame to see him pass away. And apparently he suffered from dementia late in his life, and his family attributes that to some of the collisions that he took at home plate as a catcher.
Oh, man. I think about Johnny Bench still going. You think about some of those players, some avoid it and some don't. And, yeah, at 73, that's too early to have dementia. And condolences, again, to his family and, of course, Tiger fans such as Ian Castleberry as well. And Ian joins us via the D.C. Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, presented today by our friends at Mountain Credit Union. All right, so, Ian, the Yankees officially retired Paul ONeill's number 21 jersey. I'm having a really difficult time seeing ONeill in the same company as Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, Rivera, Jeter. He was on multiple World Series teams, but he only spent part of his career with the Yankees. He made his name with the Reds beforehand. Does this seem a little weird to you, or am I overreacting on this?
I think like you might be overreacting a little bit. I mean, it does seem weird when you say, no, Paul O'Neill is not at the same level as Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, but he did. He played more than half his career with the Yankees. So he played. I think he played 8 seasons with the Reds, 9 with the Yankees. All of his numbers were better with the Yankees, not just because he played one additional season, but I mean, he was sort of a mediocre major leaguer when he was traded to the Yankees. But with the Yankees, he batted .300 over his 9 seasons, 185 home runs, 850 RBI. Now, those aren't Hall of Fame numbers, and O'Neill's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. He only lasted 1 year on the ballot. So, but if you look at it as, okay, he's not one of the all-time greats in Major League Baseball history, which is what you typically associate with the Yankees retiring a number. But so many teams retire a number for a player who meant a lot to that team, who meant a lot to their fans. And O'Neill, he was on 5 World Series champions, looked at as the heart and soul by many fans and media. And over the years, since O'Neill has retired, players who have joined the Yankees, LaTroy Hawkins, for instance, or Morgan Ensberg, like they were given number 21 and they wanted no part of it. No, that's Paul O'Neill's number. The fans, I think they booed or they had a major problem with LaTroy Hawkins wearing number 21 for one game, and then he switched to number 22. So if the Yankees take that out of circulation and say, okay, no player is going to wear 21, so is that a situation where you may as well retire it? I mean, he's already out there in Monument Park. Should you put him on the wall if no one's ever going to wear that number 21 again? I think for the Yankees, retiring Paul O'Neill's 21 is a suitable honor.
Man, I don't know, man. It's still weird for me to wrap my head around that, just to see that. Look, it's just weird. It's like, I don't know if he's even retired. His number's retired from the Reds, and they have but I just feel like the Yankees, their standard, I mean, they're the greatest team of all time. They have the greatest players of all time. I mean, you think about Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and DiMaggio, and then you look at the pitchers, Whitey, Ford. I mean, it's insane the level of greatness that is in Monument Park. And I'm not bashing Paul O'Neill, but it just seems weird. It seems like this is more of a fan thing than a baseball thing. And again, it's the team, as you mentioned, hey, the team can do whatever they want, but it seems like it just watered it down just a little bit. So,
you mentioned the fans, too, though. I think this is a nod to them. I mean, yeah, I'm a Detroit Pistons fan. Vinnie Johnson's number 15 is retired. No, he's not one of the greatest guards in NBA history like Isaiah Thomas or Joe Dumars, but he was a big part of those Bad Boys championship teams. And for the fans, it mattered to retire his number. For another team, I don't think this would be a big deal at all, but I mean, I agree with you with the greatness that so many of the numbers retired by the Yankees have. Maybe it looks, it's a bit of an eyebrow raiser.
Yeah.
One more point on this, though.
Yeah.
There's a movement among fans and some media to retire Roberto Clemente's number 21 throughout Major League Baseball. So if that's a movement that succeeds, this might end up being a moot point in a few years anyway.
I think they should do that. What a humanitarian, one of baseball's great players, certainly one of the great players of his generation was Roberto Clemente. And this is a guy that was flying, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ian, but basically flying a mission on a plane in the off season, delivering, I think, food and supplies to his native Dominican Republic. And the plane went down, crashed in the water, and we lost Roberto Clemente. But he is one of the all-time greats. You look at Jackie Robinson, and they're different in the sense of Robinson, he broke down barriers, but Clemente showed what it was like to be a major league great, like an all-time great athlete, and be an all-time great humanitarian. And I think that goes a long way. I would have no problem with Clemente's number 21 being retired, even if that takes Paul O'Neill out of the equation there. Hey, before I let you go, I got to ask you, all right, so House of the Dragon, this is the prequel to Game of Thrones, and a lot of folks are super excited about it. I'm going to check it out, but I'm not like freaking out like so many people are. Did you hear the story that basically HBO Max, they had problems because I think Amazon had some special sign-up service that was so overloaded that it impacted HBO Max, and some people literally had to go in and recreate a password and kind of re-sign to actually get the episode, that's really going through a lot. But I know you were contemplating maybe not seeing it immediately, but did you break that rule? Did you see it last night?
I did not watch it last night. I did record it, however. I probably will watch it tonight. I am interested in it. I mean, I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan, but I mean, a friend of mine had been on me for years to read the books. You'll love these books. And then finally the TV series came out, and I don't know, maybe sometimes I think I have this natural impulse to just kind of avoid what everybody is talking about, maybe.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't try to be too cool for school, maybe. But I did get caught up in it. I am interested in House of the Dragon. You know, see swords and dragons and people having sex and slicing each other with swords. There are worse things to watch on TV. But it certainly speaks to the appetite that this series, anything Game of Thrones related, has with fans, you know, to have HBO Max crash like that. That's great publicity for House of the Dragon and HBO.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, is Emilia Clarke, is she still going to be in this one, who was the original Dragon Lady?
I don't believe she is. Game of Thrones fans are probably screaming at their radios right now because I'm not going to get this right. But this series, I believe, takes place 300 years before the original Game of Thrones. It is the same family, the same lineage. But I don't believe one of the characters that grows up to be who Emilia Clarke is in the Game of Thrones series.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't think you have to have watched Game of Thrones also, by the way, to enjoy House of the Dragon.
See, you can watch the prequel, then watch the original. You'll be right there. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, Ian, this is why we ask you the difficult questions, my friend. Always great to have you, buddy.
All right, thanks, Pat.
You got it. Be well, friend. That's one of the good ones. Again, Ian Castleberry, talented writer and editor with Barrett Sports Media, one of the most respected sports media websites in the country. I would say the most respected. Appreciate Ian's time and effort and knowledge, as always.